Okay guys, hello, we're back again with our interesting tours of Carey's Camp Road, which we've done 2 sections so far. We did the church back in August, and then in the fall we did Carey's Cemetery, which the cemetery is over right off where that pivot is, way over there, and the church is on down to the end of the road. And this is Carey's Camp Road, which people have asked me, said, you know, why are you doing these videos and the history segments on Carey's Camp Road? And there's just some things along the road that I've learned in my life that I want to share, and Mr. Ward's here today to help open it up to us, things that he knows, because he was here just a few more years before me. So, but what I wanted to share was briefly that, you know, Carey's Camp Road is a pretty old road. Back in the days, before even my parents were born, there wasn't a road like Route 24 or Laurel Road, as it's now called, or Route 20 or Route 9. I mean, those roads were all added later, and this road would have been like your main road to get to Salisbury, which goes right by my house. So, you know, if a bridge was out somewhere down the road on this road, you'd have to figure out another way to get there, because, you know, the main roads weren't there. But anyway, this road was also called 421 back before they started naming roads, which I think would have probably been somewhere in the 80s when they started naming roads. So anyway, Don's here with us today, and Don's going to tell us some history that he remembers about this area. And our actual goal is to head over this area where these poles are set up in this field, which anybody who travels on this road has seen these poles set up before, but probably not sure exactly what it is. So we think we've got a little bit of opening about that, and we're going to share that with you today. But first, here's Don, and come on over, Don, and you can tell us some things that you wanted to let people know about.
Thank you. I grew up on the farm about 500 or 600 yards over here by Carey Cemetery, and I'm pretty familiar with this farm. I remember when a family lived here when I was a little boy. I used to come over and talk to the lady of the house, and one of the things that made this farm well known above a lot of other farms was, you see a rise out here in the field, and that elevation is a sand ridge in the field, naturally occurring. And there was an Indian camp there, and people used to come out here from long distances and with rakes and hoes and whatever, and find Indian artifacts. That was before I was an adult, and I've been out here a couple times looking. I never really found any Indian artifacts there. However, my father found a couple on the adjacent farm. He owned the adjacent farm right over here. So I brought along a few of them today, and I'm assuming you can get those there on the video. They're perfectly shaped arrowheads that were used by the Indians that lived here. I'm not sure what the dates were, but before 1600, because there's no evidence here of English settlers. There's no peace pipes or anything like that. So it could have been 1,000 years before 1600. Probably not, but we don't know. The other piece that my father found near the front door of our house is this Indian scraper knife. It's interesting because it is so well done, made with a curve on one side to scrape skin, and the other side is quite sharp. It would cut you easily, and of course could easily be used to skin a deer. Some people ask me sometimes about this stone, is it occurring here? And the answer is no. It does not occur, the stone does not occur in Delaware. You can find it in Pennsylvania, and I believe what happened is once the Indians found out that you could chip it and form these arrowheads or scrapers, the The Indians would take it from the quarries up in Pennsylvania by canoe down the Chesapeake Bay and stop at various sites along the Chesapeake Bay and trade it with local Indians for whatever the trading commodity was, food or whatever. So the stone that we have is chipped. You can, I don't want to say easily chip it. I will say it's easily chipped if you know what you're doing and how to do it. I have seen people do it, but I never had much luck with it. But you can get it chipped to the point where it has a straight edge on it. So there used to be a store right down here. There's a four-way stop sign now. Used to be three-way, and there was a store there, and you can see that on the old maps. The road came up from Mission to my hard right up to Carey's Camp Road. There was a stop sign, and you had to turn left or right. It was that way when I was a youngster growing up. The store had long since disappeared. But this was truly a main road. Anybody going from Salisbury, Maryland, which is and was a sizable town, if they were going north into Delaware, central or eastern Sussex County, this was the main road. So traffic was, I don't want to say heavy, because there was no heavy traffic in those days, but this was the heaviest travel road around. And when they got to the Y, which is about half a mile down the road, they would bear left to go to Georgetown or continue to the right to go to Millsboro. And that Y today is located at Carey's Church and Carey's Camp. One of the other things that make this road significant, I think, is that an area called Mudford, which was an area as opposed to a point, was located somewhere generally where we are now, maybe a little west of us. That's where the Methodist societies in the area started having their summertime meetings. They would have encampments here, and they would come and live here for a week or 10 days. They would sleep in wagons. They would take sheets and form tents. Fairly crude living, but they would have big pots they would cook their food in, and they would have preaching every night, Bible study every morning and every afternoon. It was truly the beginning of the religious encampments. But once the camp meeting was over, they took everything with them. The tents that were really makeshift sheets, and the wagons, the covered wagons. When Carey's Church was built in the late 1880s, they decided to move the camp meeting they were having here a half mile down the road, and that was the beginning of Carey's Camp. The buildings there were permanent buildings, and they could come back to the same building every year. That's where they made a tabernacle. And of course, Carey's Camp today is a very functioning evangelical Protestant camp meeting that everybody's invited to come to, starting the last Wednesday of July every year. Okay, if you want to, we'll cut that off and